Welcome to today's podcast episode of Dr. Patty and the podcast, talking about real relationships. And today you are going to have yours truly, myself, as my own guest. And the topic that I'm going to discuss today has to do with leadership. I am absolutely blown away by, quite honestly, the lack of effective leadership in today's business world and really everywhere you look. So during this video, what I want to talk about is there's 7 ways that differentiate an effective leader from a non-effective leader. And let's face it, without effective leadership, your company will not be as successful as it could be if it's successful at all. And your career also will not grow to its full potential. And leadership is anybody that has any influence over people. If you're working in the world today, you know that there are real leaders and there are leaders in title name only. So let's talk about the characteristics of a real leader versus a title only leader. All right. The first trait, the first attribute that differentiates a real leader from a leader in title only or an ineffective leader is a real leader is a visionary, and a non-effective leader or a fake leader, a leader in name only, is very short-sighted. So what do I mean by that? An effective leader is a visionary because they have a clear, compelling vision for the direction and the strategy that the company is going to take, regardless of all the noise that surrounds what's going on in the world. All right. They have the foresight to set strategic goals and steer their organization for long-term success, not short-term success, but long-term success, right? It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. And a strategic visionary leader is able to inspire their team with the shared person so that they make every member of the team feel like they have a part to play in the strategic vision of the company. This reminds me of the story of when President John Kennedy was walking through the Space Center as they were developing the race for the first man to go to the moon. And he ran into a janitor and he said to the janitor, "What is your job here?" And the janitor's reply was, "I'm part of the team that's putting the first man on the moon." He understood that his job was a function and reflective of the entire strategic vision for NASA. Okay. Now, there's speculation as to whether that story is true or not, but you get the point. So an effective leader is visionary versus short-sighted. Huge difference between those two types of leadership. The second role is an effective leader is an excellent communicator versus a non-effective communicator. And we all know that the ability to effectively communicate will determine the overall success of not only your business, but your personal life. Think about how many things have gone awry in your company because communication was not effective. And this happens in so many ways. So an effective leader clearly articulates the vision we just talked about, articulates the goals and the expectations of everybody that works for them. They are excellent in providing feedback to everyone, positive and maybe constructive feedback. And because of this effective communication, every single member on the team knows what their roles are, their responsibilities, and how it contributes to the overall success of the organization. Excellent communicators are seen in leaders that know how to actively listen. So they're listening not only for what's being said, but also for what's not being said. They don't come to the communication with just their own agenda. They are fully and genuinely present. So they are actually listening to what's being fed to them. And along the lines of that, they value the input and the perspective of their team members. And this fosters a culture, a healthy culture of openness and trust, where people feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable. And with that vulnerability and with that trust, people feel comfortable communicating thoughts, ideas, and perspectives that they probably know that their leaders may not agree with or may feel differently or think differently about. But an effective communicator knows that it's important to hear all perspectives. And you may agree or disagree, but effectively you will let them know that, I can see your perspective, but perhaps we're not going in that direction now, but I definitely want to hear your future thoughts on other issues. That's an effective leader that communicates effectively. An ineffective leader almost always struggles with communication. They might withhold information. Everything's a secret. So you might change direction in something and nobody knows why. Or they are clueless in how to provide clear instruction. And you need to have simplicity when you are communicating direction and instruction, especially the more complicated the instructions are, the more important it is to have clarity in your communication. And this lack of communication and lack of clarity creates a ton of misunderstandings. It decreases morale. It creates a lack of alignment with the team. And it also is ineffective and inefficient because without clear communication and clear understanding of where you're going, many times you will find different teams working on the same thing. And that is a total waste of time, energy, effort, and of course, money. The third way somebody is an effective leader versus an ineffective leader is an effective leader empowers their team, whereas an ineffective leader is that micromanager. Okay. I can hear the side as people are listening to that because unfortunately, most people have experienced that micromanaging leader. All right. So what does an empowering leader look like? They empower their team to do the job that they were hired to do by delegating effectively and giving people the tools and the resources to be able to create success in what their role is. And when you empower someone, you not only boost their morale, but you also are encouraging their professional growth and development. And this will make members feel more valuable. It will make them feel as if their contributions are meaningful. And human research shows when you make somebody feel valuable and that their contribution is considered to be meaningful, they will go above and beyond. You will get so much more out of people. They will not phone it in or do, what do they call it? The silent quitting that we hear about today, because that is due to a lack of effective leadership. Someone that micromanages, I'm sure you don't need me to tell you, but basically a micromanager gets into the weeds, the nitty gritty details of what you're doing and how you're doing it. And that is the easiest way to stifle productivity, creativity, innovation. It leaves somebody feeling incredibly demoralized because they're sitting there thinking, you hired me to do a job. Not only are you not telling me how to do it effectively, you're actually coming in and questioning every single move I make. So why should I bother doing it? You're not going to be happy with it anyway. And unfortunately, we've all experienced that. So an effective leader empowers people. They don't micromanage them. Okay. The fourth difference between an effective leader and a non-effective leader is that an effective leader is adaptable. And a non-effective leader is rigid. And in today's business world, the only constant is change. So if you are not adaptable as a leader, you are going to be left behind. An adaptable leader views challenges as opportunities for growth and a way to think outside the box. And because they're adaptable, they're always ready to pivot in response to the changing market dynamics or the internal feedback that they're getting from their team. So they take into consideration what their customers and clients are telling them. And they're also taking into consideration what their internal team is telling them. So if you have a product, say, that you're selling and your clients are consistently telling you that there's a piece of that product that isn't effective or that is not working for them, and your internal team validates that issue, you don't turn a blind eye to that. You address that issue so that you can make that product more amenable for your clients. You're adaptable as opposed to being rigid, where you're rigid in your thinking, you're rigid in your decision making, and your motto is pretty much my way or the highway. And that doesn't make people feel engaged, valuable, or important. And good luck to you innovating anything if you are rigid in your approach to leadership or anything else. Another major difference between an effective leader and an ineffective leader is an effective leader is very empathic, and they really are in tune with and they care about how the people around them, the people that work with them, that work for them, their customers and their clients, how they are feeling about a specific situation, even if they themselves think that's a little ridiculous or I wouldn't feel that way. But someone that's empathic can care about how somebody else feels about something without judging them. When you show empathy to people, you will create an incredible sense of loyalty from those people. Because again, even if you disagree, if somebody knows that you value how they feel about a situation, it will still create a positive culture. And empathy is a prerequisite to building strong, healthy relationships where everyone feels heard and understood. Now, I've written before, and I think I've done some videos before about how people think feelings have no place in the business world. Utter nonsense. If it doesn't matter, then why does everybody care so much about what their boss feels, right? Or what their client feels. So don't minimize the importance of empathy being an effective leader. And in terms of being unempathic or detached, well, unfortunately, we've all experienced the detached leader that we feel could care less about us as a person, just get the job done. Nobody wants to work for that person. Nobody. All right. And the detached leader wouldn't want to work for himself. Believe me. Another difference between an effective leader and a non-effective leader is that one that is innovative at heart versus one that's complacent. The effective leader is innovative, so they encourage creativity. They encourage innovation. They're always looking for new ways to improve processes, services, everything, engagement, heart. They want new and improved, if you will. And because of this, these leaders are willing to take calculated risks, okay? Not throwing a dart at the board and just seeing if it will stick, but taking a calculated, educated risk that will lead to new breakthroughs and innovations. And it will drive the organization forward. And it might, in fact, be the catalyst that will put the organization to be the tip of the spear in your industry. All right. You must be innovative versus the ineffective leader who's complacent. So they are happy with the status quo and they're resistant to new ideas and innovation. I don't even know how you can be in business today if you're complacent. And the best example of a company that was complacent is Kodak. And if you're under, I don't know, 40 years old, you might have to Google the term Kodak because you probably don't even know anything about it. Kodak became so complacent when they were doing film. Okay. Most people don't know this, but Kodak actually invented digital cameras. But when the inventors brought it to the executives were like, hey, we've got a good thing going here. We own this market. Nobody's going to want to bother with all this new digital stuff. Well, could you make a worse mistake than that? And that ineffective leadership, that leadership that wasn't willing to be innovative and just became complacent, led to the downfall of Kodak. And there are so many other companies like that today that you all know if you follow the business news. So in summary, the differences between an effective leader and a non-effective leader is visionary versus short-sighted, effective communicator versus ineffective communicator, empowering versus micromanaging. An effective leader is adaptable versus being rigid. An effective leader is empathic as opposed to detached. And they are innovative versus complacent. And it's really important that we develop our leaders. So many people become leaders or have been in leadership positions. And quite honestly, they've had no training, no development, no coaching on being a leader. So if that's the case, I would suggest you reach out to someone like myself that can empower you to be the best leader that you can be. And do you know what the number one trait of great leaders are across the board throughout every industry? Is that great leaders are students of leadership. They are always learning. So with that concludes today's podcast episode of Dr. Patty Ann's podcast, talking about real relationships. And make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to this podcast. And until next time, be well.